Hello YouTubers and fellow hams. I haven't done a channel update in quite a while, and I thought that I'd do that, but I also thought I'd just talk to you guys, just chat with you for a little bit. A lot going on. Really got myself into kind of a pickle with 630 meters. I really want to get on that band, and I've had a great success with building the CW transmitter. And now I'm stuck with figuring out antennas. And that is the problem, is figuring out antennas. You see, 630 meters, well, that's quite a wavelength, You're talking, a quarter wave is 472 feet, or somewhere around there. So yeah, it's no simple feat to get on that band. No simple feat. The most common antenna by far, at least from what I've been reading, and I've been doing a lot of reading these days, is people are taking their inverted L antenna that they use for 160 meters, and I'm going to need a longer wood screw for that, and they're putting a huge inductor at the base of it and loading it up and using that. So they'll have like a 40 or 50 foot, 60 foot vertical section and then a 80 foot horizontal section. And they'll put a great big inductor there at the base. You see an inverted L at those low frequencies, that top horizontal part acts like a capacity hat. It acts like a capacitance, a capacitive reactance to the antenna system. So the radiating element is actually the vertical element. And then you've got a capacitance here, and you have to cancel that out with an inductance here at this end to balance it out and reach 50 ohms impedance so you can load it up properly. 630 meters, medium wave, we're kind of going back to the roots when you think about it. Early radio, the 1920s, when spark gap transmitters were the norm, those were the frequencies that everybody operated at. That's where amateur radio existed. The HF frequencies and up came much later. They were back then not considered to be viable frequencies. They didn't understand propagation, so everything was medium wave. Everybody dealt with huge wavelengths and big antennas. So we're kind of going back to the roots. The problem in my case is I don't have any structures. I have a small city lot. I have a house and I have a shed, man, that's it, No trees, no tower, not much space to put a tree or a tower. It's lousy. I really just don't have any options. What I'm working on here is I'm working on an antenna idea. Yet another magnetic loop. Just a second for getting ready to drill some holes in these little wood pieces to brace the main structure. This is the main structure. It's a 4-foot cross-shaped piece of wood. On the ends, I've done 10 notches on each end, and they're all matched. So it's going to be the outer loop. I'm going to wind it on there. It's classic medium wave receive loop design. I've seen a guy in England transmitting on one and making contacts on 630. So that's going to be my experiment for one antenna, is a big loop. So I was just working on that. The only other antenna that I have of any length is my unfed wire, which goes from the porch up over the house, reaches about 16, 17 feet, maybe 20 feet above the ground, and then it slopes down to the shed in the backyard. So it's kind of a C shape over the earth. So at those frequencies, it's purely a vertical, an NVIS antenna. It's going to throw the signal straight up. So I'll rely completely on delay or propagation, if I can even load that up. I'm going to build a variometer. A variometer. There's an interesting topic. Okay, variable inductors. Most of you are probably familiar with two types. You've got the tapped inductor. No, I've still got one sitting over here. From back when I overbuilt the L-network antenna tuner, and I made it really big for, visual for the camera, I did a tapped inductor, where you've got an inductor and each winding is tapped, and I could move an alligator clip to select the tap. So that's one way of doing a variable inductor, is you tap it every so many turns, and then you can just switch into the taps or clip onto the taps, however you want to do it. The other type of variable inductor you might be familiar with is a roller inductor, where the entire inductor is on a rotating drum, and there's a rod with a brass follower that's on the windings, and as you roll the inductor, that follower follows along on the outer winding, so it's continuously variable. Those are fairly modern variable inductors. If you go back, way back to the 20s and before, they still had variable inductors they'd come up with. They were called variometers. And the way a variometer works is you have one inductor, a big inductor in series, and then inside of that you have a smaller inductor that's in series with the outer inductor, and that smaller one can rotate. And as you rotate that inductor, you're rotating the magnetic fields, and they're going from harmonizing with each other to bucking against each other. And in doing so, you vary the inductance. So that's a variometer. Now, we're using variometers these days still in the 630 meter band experiments. Give me a second. That was loud. So yeah, 630 meter band experiments. What people are doing is they're building what they call bucket variometers, where they take a big 5-gallon bucket from Home Depot and they wind a coil on the outside of it, and then they take a smaller piece of PVC and they wind a coil on that, and they put that inside the bucket and rotate it, and that becomes the variometer. So I'm going to work on that. I have some of the parts. A neighbor threw out a bucket. I have some PVC for the internal coil and for the shaft. I need to get a hole saw. I need to get some wire. So I'll be heading to the hardware store for that eventually. And yeah, I'm going to build one and try to load up my unfed wire. So that's going to be another antenna experiment, trying to get on 630 meters. I think I did this wrong. Let me think about this a moment. No, I did it right. Okay. I shouldn't work on this while I'm thinking, because I'll screw up. This big loop is going to be interesting. I'm bracing the middle part because these planks are pretty thin. A neighbor threw out a bunch of scrap wood, and I grabbed a bunch of these planks, and they're 4 foot long, which would be 1.3 meters, right? Yeah, let's see. 1 meter is 3 feet, so a foot is a third of a meter, so yeah, 4 feet would be 1.3 meters. I forget how thin they are. Is my ruler handy? No. But, it's, I don't know, 1/4 inch. They're American cut, so they're probably a 1/4 inch thick. So they're not very thin. Or not very thick, not very strong, but they're strong enough to hold a wire. I'm going to, one of these center pieces is longer, so it'll stick out of the back side of the loop and be a mount point that I can mount it on something. I'm going to make a stand and mount it so that one of the ends are just above the base. That's where I'll put the variable capacitor, so I won't have to stress this wood with the weight of the variable capacitor. And then the coupling loop, I've yet to figure that out. But yeah, that's what I'm working on there. So this is 4 foot square. which is probably going to be in the arena of 8 turns and 200 picofarad of capacitance, probably in that arena to get it down to the 630 meter band. And my hope is that with the windings nice and uniform and spaced evenly, that this will be stable enough to couple up and give me a low SWR for transmitting so I can transmit on it. Won't be very efficient. It'll be thin wire on the outer part of the loop. All I've really got is some 18 gauge doorbell wire that I can use. Actually, that's 20 gauge. That's even thinner yet. Yeah, well, I might pick up some heavier gauge wire at the hardware store and rewind it with that once I'm sure it'll couple. So yeah, that's another experiment for 630. So yeah, that's what I'm working on. It's turning out to be a long project. I've had a bad several days. Field day morning, I went out there to the site Saturday morning, and I was on my feet for about an hour and a half, and that did my back in. Muscles spasmed. I had to go home, and it hurt, and I've been down for several days. Just managing a little bit of time here at the bench this morning to work on this, and try to work on the bucket variometer maybe this weekend if I can. It's been kind of tough lately. My back's getting worse, my neck's getting worse. Declining fast, but I'm still going. The channel has grown tremendously. I try not to think about it because it boggles my mind. We're almost at 11,000 subscribers. That's just crazy to me. I'm just a guy, you know. I'm just an average guy sharing what I learn and what I play around with and what I experiment with. And you guys have found that interesting enough to subscribe in numbers, and that just blows me away. I appreciate it. I mean, wow, thanks, you know, glad you're here. And I enjoy reading the comments and interacting, and I enjoy the HF Hangouts when the conditions are good, and getting to hear voices over the air from you guys. And Patreon, man, you guys that are supporting me through Patreon, thank you. Thank you so, so much. I haven't been able to get a good job. I haven't been able to get a regular steady income yet. I'm still trying. And YouTube has been the only thing paying the bills. And if it wasn't for Patreon, I would be out of money by now. I'd be broke. I probably would have sold the house by now. You know, so you guys have kept me afloat, and I absolutely appreciate it. And if there are those of you that aren't aware of Patreon and you want to maybe help out a little bit and keep me going, you can donate as little as $1 a month, or as much as you want. It's automatic. You just set up the donation, and it comes out of your debit card at the end of the month. And I get 85%, I think, of it. They take 15 or something like that. Maybe it's a better ratio. I'm not sure. But they take a small percentage for the service, of course. You expect that. Yeah, it's been paying my bills. It's been keeping me up. The only thing that I haven't been able to cover is the house payment. So that's what's been bleeding out of the savings account, which is ever dwindling. It's looking okay though. I think I'll make it through the winter. But come spring, I don't know. If things don't change, I've started thinking about options. Obviously, I'd have to sell the house and most of this stuff. I'd probably end up buying an RV and maybe spending some time just traveling around, visiting with other hams and radio clubs and visiting events and video logging the whole thing and hoping that the YouTube income will keep me going. But that's down the road if I even get there. Hopefully it doesn't come to that, because I like having the house. I like having the space. I like having the bench, the test equipment, the parts. I have cabinets and piles of parts that I'd have to get rid of. That, boy, it'd be hard to let that go. So yeah, that's where it's at. You know, I'm being honest with you guys. I'm sharing, you know, because this is just my life, the way it is. Can't change it. I'll just keep moving forward, and I'll keep working on getting on 630 meters. Doggone it! I hope this antenna works well enough to be heard, because I really want to get that first QSL card on 630. You know, I really want to get that. I want to get more people going on 630 and get some CW activity going. You know, we need more of that. There's like at last count, like 180 stations were heard over a month on 630 meters. Only 180 across the entire country. We need to get cracking on it, you know. more people need to get on the band. Anyway, I think I've blabbed long enough, longer than I planned to. I hope I didn't bore you all. And hopefully the next video in this in the timeline will be this antenna, or the bucket variometer, and hopefully a 630 meter contact. That's what I'm focused on right now. So 73, thanks for being there. Patreon guys, thank you for allowing me to continue to exist for a while. I appreciate it so much. I'm humbled by it, but I'm also very appreciative. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Also, if you're not already a subscriber, click to subscribe. Join us on the Facebook channel for discussion about the videos. And if you'd like to help support this channel, please click to support me on my Patreon page.